Hello? Ooh, cool.
Can you hear it?
Yeah. Testing.
Yeah, so my first curiosity around growing up and like always thinking about Canada, what country it was oh wow, it's an ultimate, like the most developed country in the world. People would have everything. Is that really the truth? How was growing up in Canada like for you guys? Because you guys were born here and raised here, so how was it?
Well, I agree that people can have everything here. As I got older, I mean, we weren't wealthy growing up, so
Yeah.
like I was really used to not having access to everything. Yeah, just like, things you might want your parents to buy for you and stuff like that. Mostly experiences. It was mostly like, not being able to learn dance or go to camp or stuff like that. But as I've gotten older, then once you have your own job, and I guess I've just realized, like, here everyone can live like a king and queen, like, because even if you're just middle class or, like, slightly lower, I feel like you can have all your basic necessities, and, like, I mean, even just having a flushing toilet feels like living like a king. In some way, and like obviously
True.
there's
Because they don't have that in Nepal.
exactly,
Yeah.
like when comparing it to like developing countries, like as I got older and visited Nepal or different countries and would come back to Canada, it's just like with the mild weather in Vancouver, and it depends what you prioritize and also what your responsibilities are, obviously. But as a young person, that was something that I realized.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's, like, material objects and stuff are quite available in Canada. But obviously there's, like, a lot lacking in other ways. But as far as materiality goes, I don't know, this is such, like, this every time I say a sentence, I'm like, yeah, but. But, so that was, like, just, a thought I had at some point in my early 20s.
Yeah.
And
Could you share maybe, like, what was it like when you were, like, early 10s or...
Oh, yeah, as a child?
Like those vivid memories, yeah.
Yeah, living in Canada here.
Yeah.
I guess I felt, until a certain age, I felt like, I got along with other people, but around 10, we moved to Vancouver. And then our wealth disparity kind of was a bigger focus because we lived in a complex within a very wealthy community. And so I really noticed the difference between the personality of rich people and I don't know, just like how out of place I felt. And like when I look back on it, I think it was just because like I just couldn't relate to most Canadians, unless they were poor or like from a different culture and had some like different understanding or about life. But like just like regular Canadian kids who had like grown up going to the same school in the same little suburban neighborhood, I found really hard to relate to. And kind of like, yeah, wait, what was the focus of the question?
So just wanting to listen to how your experience growing up was.
Yeah.
Like, did you have access to all the basic needs? Were you sort of feeling isolated, or were you like felt towards belong to the community?
Right.
Yeah.
I felt isolated, and I think from not, like I didn't ever play sports, and that's kind of like a big thing people do here.
Right. Oh my God, people are crazy about sports here.
Yeah. It's like everyone's enrolled in a different class every day after school kind of thing. So, and I think a lot of socializing for kids and teens happens through sports. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's the culture of sports and like all the things you learn on the field, I guess. Which I didn't realize that until I was a bit older, maybe a teenager. I was like, whoa, I don't know how to do this, because we'd have to do it in PE.
Yeah.
And like, I was just like afraid to do it.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I feel like I was quite sheltered. Like I would spend most of my days at home, like drawing after school or watching movies and reading maybe with my friend, but like, yeah. Well, I was comfortable because we had a nice, like a good...
Suna was the type that would meet up with a friend and they would read.
Yeah. We'd like go to a park and then hang out there all day just reading. I don't know, books I got from the library. Yeah.
Nice. How was it like for you, Didi? Because like you must have a different experience, no?
Well, actually, very similar experience to Suna, since we were in a lot of the same place for the most part. We were always together, and I'm only a couple years older. But I don't think that we really processed what our childhood was like until we were like young adults, or up until now, have a way better understanding of like things that happened that you just didn't really think one way or another, like good or bad. It just was like, that's what life is when you're a kid. But when I look back on it, it's easier to see that, you know, being from a different culture made us have certain unique experiences that weren't always shared depending on where we lived. And we moved around a lot, so I think for a childhood experience, like we were at a different school almost every year for a while, and we lived in a lot of places around Canada, but we also went back to Nepal and spent time, we would homeschool there. And I think doing that a few times at a young age helped us see how different people live in different ways. And since that was our family, it was like, oh, we can see that our family in Nepal lives this certain way and they have these certain priorities. And then coming to Canada, the priorities are very different. Mm-hmm. And even as a kid, you can kind of see like, oh, we're kind of spoiled in Canada. Like, you know, if you think you're lacking, it's like, even as a kid, you're like, oh, I don't have this. And you go travel, it helps you see like, oh, okay, that's like not very important. And, you know, going to Nepal, it's like, the toys are as simple as like having marbles, and then like
drooling over marbles,
go a
fight
long
over
way.
I remember I used to be so angry when somebody took my marbles without asking.
I just remember being like, I'm at a big disadvantage because I haven't been playing marbles my whole life, and I would always buy a sack of marbles and I'd lose them all like really, really fast. I'm pretty sure our cousin Bebek was the one that would like win them all.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's like a big treasure as a child when you grow up in Nepal too. Yeah.
But one thing that I really think, like Suna did touch on a lot of things that are, that I also believe, I agree with, but one thing that I think is a really big difference between here and other countries is the safety. Like, we have the privilege of safety when we go out. And I think a lot of places just don't have that. And I think that is a mark of privilege, as well as just like when you're in places where people are poor, they're more desperate and more willing to do things that put other people in danger. And so it definitely feels very different when we go back to Nepal, but even other countries, just traveling. Canada is very sheltered and very safe by comparison. Even though people say that you have to be really careful, and you do, you know, obviously have to be mindful of certain places, but even in the most desperate neighborhoods in Vancouver, I feel a lot safer than I have when I've lived in other countries.
Yeah, I definitely feel safer. I can like go 1 a.m. at night and I wouldn't necessarily feel scared that someone would be kidnapping me or raping me, or because that is a usual thing that can happen in Nepal like, at night. How was your experience growing up in the village in Nepal?
Simple early morning, getting up every day 3:30, making sure your chores are done. Then Kathmandu's different. Living with other family, that's again it's you do your chores. If you do a mistake, you get gully. Always felt I'm glad I was poor. That's what I can say, because if I was rich and I got everything, I think my life I wouldn't value the way I'm valuing now. I don't remember being child, always been adult, which I feel good when I can help. And but safety, I didn't feel safe in Nepal. Always either somebody come and beat you, you hit you for no reason. But and also being Nepali, I remember I wanted to go to a restaurant or go to a store that look at things, jewelry or anything, and they look at you and they said, "No, you can't buy this. It's
They
not
judge
for you."
for who, for what you wear.
Yeah, and the restaurant they said it's too expensive. But in Canada, I felt very safe, and if I have money, I can go to any big hotel and eat food, and I can wear anything, nobody judging here. And I work hard when I was little, and I work hard for anything to get my life, and I felt easy working here. There wasn't like in Nepal working as a servant. You have so many things you have to do, so so many hours. If you don't, then you get beat up. Here, you have a job, you go, as long as you do right, nobody, scold you. And that was my experience here. But being different color, there is a struggle, there is a name calling, and I went through that difficult time. I did cry when they called me name. Then when I told, I was taking English as a second language, and I told teacher, and they said, "That's not you, those are ignorance, and just ignore." And I just that's not my problem. My color is my color. They're putting me down, but also they are putting themselves down. That's how I put it. My life is here, long way to go still. Compared to Nepal, if I work honestly, I can do any job here.
In terms of culture, so because obviously we are all born and raised as Tamangs, and did you find any differences growing up 3 kids in Canada as a Tamang woman?
Yes.
Yeah. How was it?
Okay, that's a good question. First of all, my husband is different, and when I had my baby in Nepal, usually man, the father will make sure food is ready, right food for mother. And here being a different culture, different my husband didn't know how to even serve me. And the food, especially meal that mother eats, and certain thing you don't give to mother, but that's what I got from my husband.
Of course.
I that time I didn't tell, but I cry. If I was home, they would have made chicken soup and soothing food and helping with baby and me. And when she came, I was only two months in Canada. And before that, even though I spoke English just little, when my baby was born and I was just talking Tamang to her. Tamang, I cry, I tell story. And she would look at me like she understood me. And she's looking like that, yes, you understand. And I am laughing, crying, happy with joy, and my this is me, and nobody can take over. And Suna and Jamuna is just 20 months apart. And Suna came, and Suna's another one, different. Each kids have a unique of my heart. She's very, very busy. She's always curious, you know. She's looking at me and what's next? And then she's in trouble. Yeah. And always like, what's that? And particular one I have to say about, she's I think not even 2 and talking and going around and telling people, I don't like that.
Oh, she's very vocal about it.
She's very vocal, and I said, shh, don't say that.
Yeah.
And she would go and to the person, I don't like you. And so people are laughing, and she's, so Suna is later on, she's a witness to what I, sometime I was called crazy. I would do and something just making sure I was all right. That's Suna. Pasang always been busy. Whenever I get very overwhelmed and upset, and he calms me down. He, you know, like, okay, not big deal, chill, you know, kama, like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they all have a different uniqueness, that gift for me. Raising as a mother, being Tamang, always taught them how to do, you know, you have to bow. And when you go to Nepal, you respect all the elders. So that's what I, as a Tamang.
Did you guys like ever feel like something was always forced to do and you never understood why you had to do it?
With the ceremonies?
With the ceremonies and how the cultural thing works in our brain.
I feel like a lot of things are just like, do this, don't
Yeah.
ask questions. And like, especially when we're in Nepal, where it's like everyone's communicating in Nepali or Tamang,
Yeah.
and then we're not fluent in.
Mhm.
When we were younger, I think it was a little easier for us. But I feel like so often, just lately, the last few times that we've gone back and we've been in ceremonies, I was like, do this. Okay, now do that.
Yeah.
And it's like there's no room for like explaining anything, and everyone's talking in Nepali, so you're like, okay. So you kind of just feel like this puppet that's like moving along, but also like feeling really like you get to be a part of something really special as well. And it's like something I think Suna and I both like really value that. So
Yeah, I really value it, but I feel very alienated when I'm within it because usually, I mean, the last time I went to Nepal, it was just me.
Mhm.
I went on my own, and I never understood the context of what was going on. And even here, too, sometimes when it's like all of us and then you and Momo can speak Nepali, and so you and Amma and Agu are all speaking, like, I feel it's like very emotional for me because I just never understand what's happening, and then I'm like, whoa, this is how it's always been. And I've just, I've created my life here where I'm not, I'm just not surrounded by Nepali people all the time, and Tamang. Yeah, I wish I could speak fluently. It's like the only thing that's missing from my life pretty much is speaking Nepali and Tamang fluently, because it's like, yeah, it's just, there's this whole world that I don't have access to, that I can only glimpse little pieces, but I'll never really understand.
I'm a bit ashamed to say this, but I also feel the same way when Asu and Dad speaks in Tamang.
Oh yeah, right, because you can't understand.
I don't understand Tamang. I like a little bit, but it's not the whole context. So yeah, in some ways I kind of relate to it. But next time I'll try harder.
Well, actually, I've started. You do try really hard to explain all the rituals and stuff. Like that just is something you've naturally done a lot. So I do understand some of the significance behind things more. Just even the stories about why this grass is used and stuff like that.
I feel like even us, we were never explained. We were always told, you have to do this, and this is how ritual works, this is how ceremonies work. Like, we are a generation of rebels, right? We ask questions with why things have to be this particular way. And
I think we've gotten more explanations since you and Momo have come into our lives than we
Really?
ever did before.
How is that?
yeah. I mean, I still don't know why we put dasai tika on dasai.
Well, our tika used to be red. We always did red, and then we changed to white.
Tika is more and more I understand. It's a Hindu people they did. It's but our Tamang people, there was a war. There are lots of king, and so
Just like hundreds of years ago.
and there was Tamang king. They wanted to get, and Tamang were very, very smart, and they can see what's coming. And never, the other side, other king, they couldn't tell how these people getting messages, because it's our Lama and Bonpo, they get messages from other side, and because of that, they tricked these Tamang people to come down. We have a meeting. And they, what do you call it? Phasako ke?
Yeah, tricked
to come down, and they
Decimated.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's
did
trap.
that, trapped,
they
and
created
they
a trap.
killed. And those tika they were happy now we got rid of. And those tika is blood and rice.
Oh.
And this is why Tamang people don't want to celebrate Dasai.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Tamang people traditionally had Buddhism as religion,
Yeah.
Okay.
as their main religion.
So the tika is Hindu.
Hindu.
Yeah, but the tika is a Hindu thing.
Yeah.
And it's a sort of a complicated thing that Nepal itself is a secular country, but 80% of them are Hindus. So the minority group, which is Buddhist and Muslims and Christians, they sort of are blended in their culture anyways, because Hindus are part of their everyday lives. And whatever they celebrate, they tend to celebrate, because it later, when there was like one Nepal, the king kind of tells everybody that you celebrate everything, we celebrate each other's diversity and whatnot. But I feel like we were not given even a chance to celebrate our diversity. We were just told to concede to the maturity kind of thing.
So because of that, the tika was always blessing, but not with red. And so I'm not putting on that red anymore. I took vow on I'm not going to put red, because one is respecting my ancestor. That's soon as red remind of blood, our people who got killed. And then other is just to blessing is you don't need a red. There was no red powder in the village. And we just did yogurt and tika. That's a blessing. So the answer to your question, why we have a tika. So more in a Dasai time is you, oldest person gives you blessing. More rice on your forehead, and that many blessing you get. And that was an auspicious way of celebrating every year, once a year. That's the ritual they did. And then the Hindu side is other again, is a celebrating of getting rid of devil.
Yeah.
And celebrating of good life after working hard. So getting rid of enemy and celebrating altogether goodness.
Hinduism has a lot of stories related to Dasai and Tihar. Which is like the biggest celebration even today, because that's when we get the longest holidays.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
2 months? Oh, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
We used to get 1 month, like
Whoa.
whole month of October. It was so happy time.
1 month holiday.
It's combined with Dasai and Tihar.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
When we were growing up, the only thing I used to look forward to was that 1 month holiday.
I guess it's like our Christmas holiday. It makes sense.
Yeah.
We got summer too.
In a village you work. And these 3 days I look forward was as a children. 3 days you raise, you keep those grass, not cutting, grow long. For those 3 days you cut, and when you have a long grass, you fill up your doko very quickly, and animal will be getting eaten, and we get to play. And that was my biggest childhood.
Game time.
Game time friend. You get to play swing and
Yeah.
visit your friend.